Imagine a highly refined, white crystalline powder. When you consume it, it triggers an intense rush of euphoria. Brain scans reveal that it lights up the exact same reward centers in your brain as cocaine, heroin, and nicotine. It is highly addictive, drives compulsive behavior, and causes severe physical withdrawal when you stop. If a pharmaceutical company invented this powder today, it would be heavily strictly classified as a Class A narcotic. But it's not. It is completely legal. It is heavily marketed on television. It is hidden in 80% of the packaged food in your grocery store. And we feed it to our children every single day. This powder is refined sugar. For decades, we've been told that sugar is just empty calories. A threat to your waistline, perhaps, but fundamentally harmless. But modern neuroscience paints a much darker picture. Sugar is not just food. It is a highly potent psychoactive substance that literally hijacks the neural circuitry of your brain. To understand why sugar possesses such mind-controlling power over us, we have to look back at our evolutionary design. Hundreds of thousands of years ago, finding food was a relentless struggle. Sweetness was incredibly rare in nature. If our ancestors stumbled upon a bush of ripe, sweet berries, it was a biological jackpot. Sweetness meant safe, dense, instant energy. To ensure we ate as much of it as possible before competing animals found it, evolution hardwired a survival mechanism into our brains. The taste of sugar triggers the release of dopamine, the neurochemical of desire, motivation, and reward. But here is the fatal flaw. Our brains evolved to handle the dopamine hit of a handful of berries heavily bundled in fiber, taking hours to digest. Today, we have industrialized sweetness. We have extracted the pure chemical essence of sugar and put it into sodas, candies, and sauces. When you drink a modern soda, you are hitting an ancient survival circuit with a weapon of mass biological destruction. Let's shrink down and travel deep inside the human brain to see exactly what happens when sugar hits your tongue. Deep in the center of your brain lies a network called the Mesolimbic Dopamine Pathway, also known as the brain's reward center. It connects a region called the VTA, which produces dopamine, to the nucleus accumbens, which processes pleasure, and the prefrontal cortex, which drives your decision-making. This pathway is designed to reinforce behaviors that keep you alive, like eating, socializing, and reproducing. When you eat a healthy meal, like a piece of salmon or broccoli, your brain releases a small, balanced drip of dopamine. It whispers, "That was good. We should do that again sometime." But refined sugar bypasses this balanced system entirely. Watch closely as we zoom into the microscopic gap between two neurons, the synaptic cleft. When you eat a donut or drink a sugary coffee, a massive spike of glucose hits your bloodstream. Instantly, an overpowering alarm sounds in the brain. The VTA goes into overdrive. Instead of a gentle drip, a tsunami of glowing golden dopamine molecules violently erupts into the synapse. They flood across the gap and forcefully smash into the dopamine receptors on the receiving neuron. The electrical signal generated is blindingly intense. Your nucleus accumbens lights up like a fireworks display. You feel an immense, fleeting wave of pure pleasure. The prefrontal cortex registers this massive reward and permanently burns the memory into your brain. That was incredible. We need to do that again, right now. This is the dopamine hijack. The brain prioritizes this chemical rush above almost everything else. But there is a dark, tragic consequence to this chemical tsunami. The human brain is obsessed with balance, a state called homeostasis. The brain is not designed to handle massive dopamine explosions multiple times a day. If it allowed this much dopamine to constantly stimulate the neurons, the cells would literally fry themselves from neurotoxicity. To protect itself from the overwhelming sugar high, the brain plays a defensive move. It performs a process called downregulation. Look at the receptors in our 3D model. To turn down the volume of the noise, the neuron physically retracts and destroys many of its own dopamine receptors. The locks are removed so the keys can't fit. This creates a biological disaster because you now have fewer dopamine receptors. Normal, healthy activities like going for a walk, reading a book, or talking to a friend no longer produce enough dopamine to make you feel happy. Life begins to feel gray, dull, and exhausting. To feel normal again, you have to eat more sugar. You need a bigger dose just to reach the baseline. This is the physiological definition of tolerance, and it is the exact same mechanism seen in cocaine and alcohol addiction. So, many people try to outsmart the system. They switch to artificial sweeteners, diet soda, zero sugar candies. They think they can get the sweet reward without the caloric penalty. But you cannot trick the brain. When artificial sweeteners hit your tongue, the sweet taste receptors send a massive signal to the brain, promising a huge delivery of glucose energy. The brain eagerly releases a wave of dopamine and signals the pancreas to release insulin. But the calories never arrive. It's a biological bait and switch. The brain realizes it has been tricked. It expected energy, but got nothing. This triggers a neurological panic. The brain immediately secretes ghrelin, the hunger hormone. It makes you fiercely crave real, high-calorie carbohydrates to make up for the missing energy. Artificial sweeteners don't cure the sugar addiction. They keep the dopamine craving alive, leaving you perpetually hungry and unsatisfied.
The Zero-Calorie Illusion.
When you finally decide to cut out refined sugar, you're not just breaking a bad habit. You're recovering from a chemical dependency. And the brain does not let go easily. In the first 24 to 72 hours of a sugar detox, the synaptic cleft is terrifyingly empty. Without the sugar spikes and with missing dopamine receptors, your dopamine levels crash to rock bottom. Your brain panics. It releases a flood of cortisol, the stress hormone. You experience severe physiological withdrawal, crushing headaches, profound brain fog, irritability, and intense, agonizing cravings. Your brain is screaming for its chemical fix. Many people break during this 72-hour window, believing their body needs the sugar. But this pain is not a sign of sickness. It is the feeling of your brain beginning to heal. If you can survive the withdrawal, a medical miracle occurs. The brain is highly adaptable, a phenomenon known as neuroplasticity. After about 3 to 4 weeks of zero refined sugar, the brain realizes that tsunamis are over. The environment is safe again. Slowly, beautifully, the neuron begins to push new dopamine receptors back out to the surface. The locks regrow. As the receptors return, your baseline dopamine levels stabilize. The brain fog lifts. Your energy levels become smooth and consistent, free from the chaotic spikes and crashes. But most importantly, the color returns to your life. Because your receptors have healed, the simple, healthy joys of life, a good conversation, a walk in the sun, a nutritious meal, finally feel deeply rewarding again. Sugar is not a treat. It is a neurological trap. But by understanding the dopamine hijack, you hold the power to start the addiction, regrow your receptors, and reclaim the throne of your own mind. The information in this video is for educational purposes only and does not substitute professional medical advice. Always consult your healthcare provider.